Hey guys, Kevin for Fear the Walking Dead, Season 2, Episode 2, We All Fall Down. I was really looking forward to this episode. I actually really enjoyed last week's premiere. I know a lot of people didn't enjoy, but I thought it was a good step in the right direction for the show, and especially it seemed like we were a lot more focused this season. Not that last season we weren't, but last season was more, developing the characters, and I thought this was another really great episode. Sure, this episode, some people could say was a bit pointless, and I can kind of see that, but I did like what we saw in this episode. I think the characters starting to become more aware of the situation, but let's just get into this episode. By the way, the first thing I do want to talk about is something I didn't talk about in last week's episode. A lot of people are thinking that the show is going to tell us, all about the, what is causing this outbreak and everything, and is there a cure for it and things like that. Well, here's the thing. As much as I'd love for them to do that, the creators reveal that they're never going to do that. They're basically going to do what the leftovers are going to do. And I'm going to say the same thing I said with the leftovers. This show is not about how it happened, rather than how the characters deal with it. And that's very similar to the leftovers in the way that they do it, where they're never going to reveal how the, how the departures happened. This show's never going to reveal how the apocalypse happened. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that as long as we keep the show interesting, and I do think they kept it interesting. Let's just get into this episode because quite a lot happened in this episode. It was kind of like Outlander, though, where it was a fairly low-key episode, and then things just got crazy, but let's just get into it. So we see water splashes the shores as the sun sets over a pillar of smoke at sea. Two kids walk out to the ocean from a beach as a walker rises from the crashing waves. Moments later, another rises from behind him as the children play with rocks and buckets of sand, and this is a big part of the episode, is the whole idea of kids and walkers, and that kids don't really know what's going on. Just as the walkers get close to the kids, they're stopped by a fence. The kids put their little creation in front of the fence and run away, fearing getting in trouble. They don't really think, they're not really thinking about the walkers, but obviously they're thinking that they're going to get in trouble, basically, and that was crazy to see right in the beginning of the episode. You can already tell this situation is getting more and more serious. I mean, definitely it's getting more and more severe. Even though I don't think people are necessarily understanding it, you can tell it is becoming more and more severe, and that's what I like, because so far we've seen all these characters in a boat this season. We haven't really seen what's going on outside of that boat. In this episode, we do get to see that. And that's something I really did enjoy. We see Madison and Travis argue about below deck about Nick's antics, whether he was right or wrong to do what he did. Nick argues that they still need to try to help people, and Travis enters with a logbook from a wreck ship they found and says that San Diego has gone down, which of course, that's where it's just not safe anymore. And he obviously, there's power outages. He brings it up to Strand, Daniel, and Ophelia. Strand is very skeptical, but turns attention to what kind of ship could have sunk that ship, because obviously something had to have happened there. They conclude that it had been a military ship and it's on the way to them. Strand suggests sailing along the coast in effort to lose it, and Travis suggests going to the ranger station on shore. They are now heading to Katrina Island, and remember, they really didn't have much of an idea of where they were going. They said San Diego is where they were headed, but now San Diego is just not safe anymore, so now they gotta go somewhere else. And Travis finds Chris on the back of a yacht and tells him the new plan. Chris gives a cold response and walks away. Again, I think he's understanding sort of what's going on, with the whole situation with Liza, but he still isn't necessarily completely over, you can definitely tell. So it's night, the yacht continues through the ocean, they're close to the shore, and they see a light turn on, and as most go to investigate, Strand chooses to stay back, prompting Daniel to stay behind too, as to not get left behind, which I did like that Daniel's the one that stays behind, because as we know, Daniel really isn't trusting Strand, and it's not so much because Strand is a leader and Strand, seems like he knows what he's doing. It's the fact that Strand's being very shady. He's not really giving them answers that they want, and Daniel really does want to question him. And that's some of the best scenes in this episode. The scenes between Daniel and Strand, I definitely really did enjoy. So Madison, Alicia, Nick, Chris, and Travis search for the house they saw. Also, Ophelia stays behind as well, but we see Madison, Alicia, Nick, Chris, and Travis, they search for the house that they saw from the boat, because there was a house and they don't know where it is, and basically they want to find out, what this house is, get some information. They basically try to get some information there, and a young boy, Harry, emerges, and his father calls him back into the house, and we do meet a new family in this episode. We might never see them again, but we do see them in this episode. So Travis introduced himself to George and asked to stay a little while before hitting the sea, and basically, I like that Travis says, we mean no harm, things are safe, and that word safe, again, they don't really realize that at this point there is nowhere safe. I mean, yes, there are some areas that I think are more safer than others, because a big part of the show, yes, is that the apocalypse isn't fully going on, but it is definitely starting to get worse, you can definitely tell. So later in the house, George gives Travis a beer. They discuss the beginning of the apocalypse and how things are just getting really bad, and George tells him that the government has been using napalm to take cities out, and half of the country has already been taken out, and Madison gets to know George's wife. They discuss problems from before the apocalypse and taking care of their kids. Her son Seth walks in the kitchen with a rifle on his back, questioning the situation before heading out on his own, because he doesn't really know what's going on. He has this rifle. We don't really know why he has this rifle, but back at the boat, Ophelia and Daniel discuss what's next. She passive-aggressively insults him with her opinion of how cruel he is, and really thinks that he's just being very cruel. Like, he himself is just very cruel, and the thing is, that's really how Daniel has been. We know that Daniel's always been in this kind of like passive aggressive since, he was, in immigration and things like that. He had a lot of problems there, and Ophelia isn't really getting a lot to do. If I did have one complaint of the season, I do want Ophelia just have a little bit more to do, because right now it just seems like she's kind of background. I know that she's recovering, but I do kind of want her to have something to do. She definitely had more to do in this episode, but I do want her to have just a little bit more to do. So Nick plays with George's daughter as Alicia looks on, looking quite bothered, and eventually explaining the plague, and Nick invites Chris to check out Harry's, but now we don't really know why Alicia is bothered. I think it's more because she was the one that contacted that guy Jack, and she thought that Jack would really get there and maybe be able to save him, but then realized that there was no saving him, that the boat was, in fact, it was a problem, and a lot of people were thinking that the guys on the boat, they were evil and, they shouldn't have trusted them. But the boat, as we know, it did end up, it ended up sinking. So Nick invites Chris to check out Harry's, but Chris shuts it down. Harry then shows Nick dolls, which represent his family, each with a red dot on there, because that's how Harry thinks the world has to be now, which is a very interesting way to look at it. The fact that he kind of sees it as, they're all gonna, they all these red dots in them, they're only to mark who they are. I think it's very interesting. It kind of shows that Harry, even though he's this little kid, he's kind of knowing the impending doom that they're all, facing very soon, definitely. So Strand and Daniel sit on the yacht. Strand is getting very anxious. Daniel questions Strand, asking if this is really his boat, because he doesn't really know. Is this his boat? And Daniel basically gets to ask Strand all the questions that he's wanted to ask him. Is this his boat? Who he was planning on leaving behind? Because he does know that there's definitely more going on here. And at this point, Strand is saying nothing. He's saying absolutely nothing. He's not giving Daniel any answers. He's kind of just, he's kind of just like, look, I know what I'm doing. You don't need to question me. Just let me be, let me do what I do, and then leave me be, basically. That's what he's trying to say. So Travis and George continue the discussion. George says that what's going on is natural course, correcting how is being destroyed, and he's okay with having Travis stay the night, even though, they're going to stay the night. And that's something I like, is that you think they're going to stay here, but they're not. They're going back to the boat. They are going to stay the night. This is only for one night to investigate what's going on and making sure this family's safe. So walking back to the boat, Travis explains everything George told him to Madison. Madison rules that George's wife turned the light on purpose, hoping to leave the island. Basically, she's thinking that they want to come with them, that they want to come back with them, and that they're thinking that they're going to leave, and Nick and Alicia then discuss the apocalypse. Nick's trying to be positive, but Alicia says that she's awake because she has so much on her mind, and I like that Nick is trying to stay positive about this. Even though he was the one to initially discover about the apocalypse, he really feels like they're going to be okay. Like, he knows what they're doing. They have people that are confident, and Nick says he can't sleep because the kids are being forced to grow up in this world, and he doesn't really know what to do about that. And that's something that's a big part of this episode, is the fact that these kids, imagine little kids having to be exposed to this kind of stuff, having to see their parents die, having to see their loved ones die right in front of them, having to see, these walkers just, out of nowhere. He doesn't think that this is the end of the world like she does, which I think is very interesting that he doesn't think that. Initially Nick did discover this, but he does feel that they are going to prevail, which unfortunately we know they're not. And Kristen sneaks around by himself, sees Seth walking. He follows him to the fence where he's putting down walkers which wash up on shore, and Seth then takes the axe, and I love that scene. Basically Seth knowing what he's doing, he takes the axe, and Travis is looking for Chris and Nick, doesn't know where he went, but points Travis in the right direction, and Travis puts a walker down. Seth gives him tips. Travis sees him from above as they're walking back. Kristen spots one more walker and takes the axe to go kill it. He bangs on the fence to get its attention, pulls it down, puts it down as Travis calls him back to the boat, and after killing the walker, he storms back up to the house, and basically he now knows how to kill walkers. And I don't know if this is going to put Chris in a more killing direction, but Seth has clearly taught him more about this, and it's very interesting. And the way that Seth, and Chris kind of bonded over that, I thought was very interesting. So Travis talks to George about the zombie situation, and George explains what they do there. which this is very interesting, I found. Once a week, they go cleaning out the bodies, and Travis is struggling to accept having seen his son killing them because he knows that, Seth is killing them, but to this family, they clearly understand what's going on. They clearly seem to be a lot more, used to this situation. They've acclimated very well to the apocalypse, which it's clear that this, the family we're following right now has not at all. And Travis is struggling to accept having seen his son killing them, reflecting on the fact that his son's George used to be mowing the lawn or taking out the garbage, and it's kind of a very nice scene. Travis isn't really used to seeing Chris just killing these walkers, and now he's thinking of all the things his son used to. He's not really getting to be a teenager, and this is something I don't really think The Walking Dead got to explore as much, because The Walking Dead took place, like, in the middle of the apocalypse, with this taking place in the beginning. I mean, imagine teenagers having to grow up in this world, basically not getting to be teenagers, not getting to graduate, having to learn to kill rather than small little chores like that. I mean, it's crazy to think about, really, and the way they really delve into that, I definitely really did enjoy. Again, something that The Walking Dead really never got to delve into. And I do think that's something that Fear the Walking Dead is taking a lot of advantage of this season. They're really focusing on things that The Walking Dead hasn't really focused on much more, which I was very happy about. So elsewhere on the island, Travis and George construct a fence to keep the zombified tourists out, as they know that they're coming. So Alicia walks around the neighborhood listening to music. She finds a bulletin board and draws a design that her boyfriend used to. A really nice scene. Matt, by their name, was the name of her boyfriend. I remember that. Matt was the name of her boyfriend, and basically you can tell that I don't think she's necessarily over him, but she is trying to keep him alive, definitely. She definitely is trying to keep his spirit in her heart. And Nick then looks around the house, finds some drugs in the medicine cabinet and others in the globe, and this is what was annoying. Why is Nick still addicted to drugs? I just don't understand. I mean, he's still having drug problems. We see this seem to come out of nowhere. We haven't seen him in episode 1 needing drugs. We haven't seen him really needing drugs since, like, the middle of last season. Why all of a sudden does he need drugs again? I don't really know. It seemed to come out of nowhere. The little girl comes in, asks him to come draw with her. The way she said that, though, I don't know, something about it was just very creepy. She's like, come draw with me, come draw. It was just so creepy the way she was saying it. I don't really know what it was, but just something about her delivery there really creeped me out. And I don't know if you guys got that same vibe, but that scene when she's like, come draw this picture with me, it was creepy. I don't know what it was. It was just the way she said it. It sounded very just demented and kind of like The Exorcist a little bit. So Daniel and Strand then continue their walk on their way on the yacht. The radar indicates that whoever is following them is gone, and Strand rules that they'll sail with the tide. And basically, Madison, the native woman, do some planting. Madison tells her that they're leaving soon. She asks if Melissa turned on the lights by accident or if she was signaling them, and Melissa opens up and admits that she saw Hope when she saw the Abigail, hoping to find someone for her kids other than the island. She did, in fact, want to get on the boat, and she reveals that she has MS, and going with her would only be a burden because of her MS. Obviously, it's something that you can tell that these kids have basically had to survive without their mother, and that's why they're more readily available for this apocalypse than the other family, because they're used to having to do things on their own, which, the other family, Madison's family is not used to doing as much. They're used to just having small chores here and there, while, the mother has MS, and I thought that really added a lot to this story. Madison tries to convince Travis to take Melissa's 2 youngest kids, but he doesn't want to. He just doesn't think it's safe, and she says that they can't keep leaving people behind, and Travis offers to talk to George. Daniel searches the ship, finds a map of Mexico, and basically is thinking that they're going to go to Mexico. That's exactly where they're planning on going, is Mexico. So Strand calls someone, asks someone what's the latest you can push it. Leia responding, sundown, I'll be there. And what does this mean? There's clearly something that Strand is hiding, and I don't really know what it is, but that definitely, there's something shady about that. I don't know exactly what that whole conversation is about, but holy shit, Strand is shady. I mean, Strand I thought was shady before, but this definitely puts Strand to a whole new level. I don't know who he's talking to, what's going on there, if he's just gonna abandon them, if he has his own reason for getting on this boat. I'm really thinking that there's definitely more of a reason why he's on this boat, and I don't think it's just because he wants to help this family. I think there's a lot more to it, definitely. So Nick gets on the boat, reveals he thinks George is going to kill poison is going to kill his whole family, basically. And basically Travis and Madison then take the kids' bags, and Melissa describes the kids and their habits. George walks up the stairs, asks what's going on. Melissa explains herself. As Harry walks down the stairs, he tells her that something is wrong with Willa. Melissa runs upstairs, finds Willa on the ground. Willa is now zombie, and she starts eating Melissa. George rushes everyone out, says stay behind. The group runs back to the boat with Harry. Strand tries to shut down bringing Harry, and a gunshot rings out right away. Strand saying, we can't bring him out. It's not going to work. And that scene was just crazy here. A gunshot then rings out. Seth boards the ship. He wants to take Harry home. Daniel draws his gun and Seth argues with them, but ultimately Seth takes Harry and stays behind, which I like that Travis tried to tell him, no, this is exactly what your dad said to do. Your dad said to take the kids, and leave, basically. And, basically that's exactly what they were told to do. So a zombie-fied Melissa approaches them on the dock, and Ophelia asks Daniel if he can do something, but he responds that Seth has a rifle. Seth takes aim with his rifle, guns his mother down as Abigail sets off, and that's how the episode ends. So overall, guys, yeah, not a ton of stuff going on this episode, but I did like the contrast between the two families. I do think that they're starting to understand more the situation that they're in. Not only the situation that, they're basically not gonna get out of this as much as they think they are going to, but they do need to learn how to kill, and they need to be used to this kind of stuff, which I do find very interesting. I do like seeing this family. I don't think we're ever gonna see these characters again. I will admit some of it I think was a bit pointless, but the idea of it was to see, could they help this family, which obviously they can't. I will say, if the majority of this season is them asking Strand, can we help people, and he just keeps saying no, that's going to get annoying, because it's just repeated storyline. There's nothing interesting there. It's just bad drama. No one wants to see something where it's just the same thing over and over again. I want to see something a little bit different, and it doesn't seem like, so far at least, and they're doing anything that different. I do, however, like what's going on with Strand, because clearly Strand is hiding something. I don't exactly know what he's hiding, but he's very shady. And why is he planning to go to Mexico? Why are they really going there? I mean, we see in the promo next week, they're going to question him, why are we actually heading to Mexico, which next week's episode looks like a lot better, a lot more in focus. I also am interested in seeing Chris, because now Chris has learned to kill, and I'm wondering if he's going to be more ready to kill, if he's going to, if he's going to take and especially with what happened with Liza, is he going to take some of that anger with Liza and actually use it, by killing walkers? I'm wondering if that's going to happen. I think that's very interesting. The whole situation with Nick, why is Nick still addicted? I don't really know. I hope that just goes away, because that was the thing that annoyed me last season, is Nick being addicted to these drugs. I just don't care. I really don't. I mean, they've hammered it down our throats, they've shoved it down our throats so many times, and Nick's addicted to drugs, just do something different. I'm not a fan of it as much anymore. Let me know if you guys saw this episode. Overall, I thought this was a really good episode. I definitely really did enjoy it. Not a ton of stuff happened, but I did really enjoy this family that we got to meet, and that's the reason why this episode wasn't completely pointless to me. I did enjoy this family. I think it also taught the family, I can't think of their last names right now, but I think it taught the family that they're not as safe as they think they are, that there definitely are threats out there, that there are more people infected, and that's the real reason why Strand can't bring people on this boat, because they're infected, and they don't know who's infected and who's not, and that's something that they need to realize. And even though I think a lot of them, kind of understand that, they still do want to bring people on the boat, because yes, they are still human, and yes, if we were in this situation, I feel like I'd do something similar, and I'd be just as annoying probably as Madison is, and I don't think Madison's coming across as annoying. I think it's just something that she really wants, and I think she's just very human, and she can't just get rid of that, part of her that wants to save people, because we as humans just want to do the right thing, and Madison's a very giving person. She needs to get rid of that, though, because she just can't really save anyone at this point. I mean, it's not safe, it's very dangerous, and overall, guys, like I said, I really did enjoy this episode. Definitely one of my favorites. Not one of my favorites this season. There's only been 2 episodes. I definitely really did enjoy this episode. While it was a bit of a filler, I will admit, I don't think it was a filler, because we did get to meet this family, things like that. We had noticed something's going on with Strand. I know you guys saw this episode. What do you think of this season in general? I do think this season is definitely better than last season, just the way it's been. I think I am liking it more. But we'll see you guys next year, which will be for the season finale of Vinyl, which I can't wait for, and I already started watching it, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.